All right, Alexander, let's do a Q&A from the live stream we had with Brian Berletic of the New Atlas. We start off with Commander Crossfire. Fortune has dazzled me, gentlemen. I've let it lead me astray. Instead of following my plan, I went to Kiev. I thought I'd make peace there. I left too soon. I've made a grave mistake, but I'll have the means to repair it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that word, for those poetically chosen words.
That's a quote.
Yeah.
All right. David S. says, does Ukraine still have HIMARS at work still?
Yes. Oh, yes. But, and this is a point which I know Brian's been mentioning, but, I'm mentioning as well, every week they become less effective. The Russian air defense system is getting a handle on HIMARS, and more of them are getting shot down. And they're an expensive missile to launch, by the way.
Vesna Lazar, thank you for that super sticker. Red Viking, thank you for that super sticker. Vanita Lynn Warren, thank you for that super sticker. Michael Tombros, Alex and Alexander are the best. Thank you for that. Michael Frustalgio, thank you for that super chat. Alberto Guerrero says, hey guys, is it true far-right Ukraine officers tried to order Polish troops into kill zone in Bakhmut, and there was a shootout between the two groups?
I've heard this story.
Troops are beholden to Ukraine Ukraine communication.
Yeah. I've heard about this story. It was reported on several Russian Telegram channels, and I believe a few Ukrainian ones as well. You hear these stories. We're not on the ground. We can't corroborate them one way or the other. We can't say that this is true. It is not implausible.
Gabriel McMillan said, should Ukraine surrender everything east of the Dnieper for the same of peace? Does it now realize that this may be the best option still left on the table? Actually, we answered that.
I think we did answer that one, yes.
Yeah. Tyler Durden says, thanks, gents. Robin R., thank you for your super chat. Jungle Jin says, could you consider returning the answering questions during the live stream? There isn't that much support for the post-live stream Q&As.
Yeah, well, it's an option.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we can work that in. Jungle Jin says, Zelensky's death wish aims to take everyone with him.
Yes.
Red Viking says, Ukraine attacked a NATO country. Why no Article 5?
Good question. Especially as they not only attacked a NATO country, even if, as I believe, inadvertently, but that they went on lying about it. Showed no regret, no apology, nothing.
Nevin Acropolis says, could the missile incident actually be a Polish false flag so they can eventually enter Ukraine or help out, to help out, i.e. retake the East, Galicia, and Volnychia? Actually,
I think we answered that question, yeah.
Yeah. Ricey says, is Zelensky the Antichrist?
No. He's too preposterous a figure to be the Antichrist, actually, I would say.
JF, thank you for that super sticker. Mayan says, is Putin too risk-averse? How might Russians remember this campaign? Saving Russian lives or losing opportunities like Odessa?
I think we answered that at length, actually, yeah.
Mr. Wonderful says, Zelensky lied and 7 billion nearly died.
Yeah, very good.
Very true. Imre Kalman says, any update on the Moscow visit of the leader of the African nations in June? Any follow-up?
No, we discussed this as well, I think, yeah.
Discussed that as well. Danielle, thank you for that super sticker. Jungle Jin says, 46, why does Russia have so many tactical weapons?
I don't know that it does, actually. Does it have so many? More than the US? I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Russians have their reasons, no doubt. Presumably, it's to respond to any attempts by the US to use it. I mean, I'm not an expert on these Russian military doctrines, so I can't comment on that.
Novus Black says, go hug your loved ones. Life is too short.
I hope not. I hope that, we will see a way through this. I believe we will.
Damnation, thank you for that super chat. Eric Halverson, thank you for that super sticker. Jan Olaf Johnson, thank you for that super sticker. Jungle Jin says, why do the Ukrainians keep trying to take the ZNPP? Isn't it sufficiently fortified by now? By the Russians, not to bother. If not, why not?
Yes, and we discussed this at length, yeah.
Jeffrey Mulford, thank you for that super sticker. Nick Malstilovich says, thank you guys for the continued great effort in making a difference. Budweiser, thank you for that super sticker. Shaura Shikar says, hey guys, what future does Ukraine have anyways? Indebtedness, slavery to U.S. corporations, mass immigration. Ukraine has signed away its future entirely. It's now a non-existent colony, a gladiatorial battleground.
Yes, I think that's a very good, very accurate, and very sadly accurate description of the state of Ukraine. Of course, there is a way back, but the Ukrainian leadership shows no desire or inclination to take it. But I mean, they could sit down, they could negotiate, they could come to agreements with the Russians, they could try and forge a real independent path for their country, but that doesn't seem to be what they want to do.
Jungle Jin says the decline of the West will surely signal a long-term contraction in the use of the English language as the dominant global lingua franca.
I think that's probably true, though I suspect it will take time because English is now so widely dispersed around the world. And it has the advantage of being relatively easy for people to learn it at least a basic level. So I think it will take time. But, ultimately, I agree. I mean, if, the US declines and loses its position, then eventually, like French and Spanish, and it will probably become relegated and of less importance.
Red Pill Llama says, unrelated question, why did the US fund the IRA in North Ireland?
Well, this is a huge question. It goes back a long, long way to the 60s, to the events of the 1960s. I think the first thing to say is that when you say the US, there were an awful lot of people in the US, Irish Americans, who were very, very sympathetic to the people in Ireland, going back all the way to the 1920s when they were fighting against the British Empire. And they continued to be supportive, those people continue to be supportive of the IRA right up until the 1970s. Now, whether there were also geopolitical factors at play, I don't know. I know that some people in Britain think so. There's been a lingering resentment. I've spoken to British officers, ex-British officers about this. There's still a lingering resentment about the way in which the US, or at least people in the US, or powerful people in the US, seem to be sympathetic to the IRA, which has left an abiding effect at some levels within the military class in Britain. And I think what they would say was that it was part of the move that the United States made after the end of the Second World War to basically close down the British Empire so that it could build on top of it, the ruins of it, to build its own. So I'd say that's what some British soldiers, to my knowledge, think.
Mortem Rex says, NASAM's 10% of the time, it works every time.
Very
Mr.
good.
Wonderful says, no fan of Xi, but his humiliation of the vile Justin Trudeau at the G20 was heartwarming. Would never happen to Trump or Putin.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that.
Jura Maladich says, you guys are marvelous. I have stopped watching mainstream media a long time ago. Please continue to stay independent.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Jungle Jin says, what happened with the Kaliningrad impasse?
What did happen with the Kaliningrad impasse? The EU backed down. That's basically what happened. The EU backed down. They got Lithuania to back down too, and the whole thing was basically sorted out. So that problem was solved.
Gear Apeland, thank you for that super sticker. Stefan Walter, thank you for that super sticker. Jose Silva, thank you for that super chat. Jungle Jin says, how did the Russians allow their exports to be blocked in the EU ports? Why did they even stop there rather than simply sail straight through?
I think we discussed this at length over the course of the program. Yeah.
Jungle Jin says, Apropos to nothing gender is not the transubstantiation of biological difference. Donna Haraway, 1989.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Serge Lubamudrov, Brian is wrong. There are countries that want to be subordinated and even suborned.
Oh, I don't know about countries, political classes within countries. Yes, I would agree with that. I don't think countries generally want to be subordinated.
Vibertron, thank you for that super chat. Valias, thank you for that super chat. Jose Silva says Russia has to end this conflict with its next push.
Well, we'll see what they do, but I think that they will eventually end this conflict. Whether it will be the next push or the push after that, we'll see. But I'm quite confident that that's what they're going to do.
Hamza Yassin, thank you for that super sticker. Jacopo de Nicola says, has the West reached the point of max cost-profit ratio in this conflict, hence the sudden openness to negotiations? If true, shouldn't Russia escalate instead to give the West a bit of its medicine?
I think we answered this one, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pinyamamba1212, thank you for that super sticker. Elza says, Putin said that now when Macron is on the phone, he just assumes that others are listening. Personally, I would be embarrassed. They all should be.
That is exactly correct. That is exactly what Putin said. He was actually, he was very, very angry about the whole affair. And he discussed it in this press conference in which he said, that, he was talking to Macron, and he subsequently discovered that, the whole of the French media was sitting alongside Macron whilst Putin had assumed that he was having a one-to-one conversation with Macron. And the Russian media asked him, does that mean you're never going to speak to Macron again? And he said, no, I'm prepared to speak to Macron again on the phone, but I'm going to assume next time that there are all these other people there as well.
Rhodesian Dream says, the Ukrainian government learned to lie from the best, no doubt.
Yeah, true enough.
And Rhodesian Dream says, those responsible for the U.S. actions in Libya and Syria should be held accountable for war crimes.
Yes, I agree with that too. There won't be, though.
Command Unit says, did Russia delay leaving Kherson because of the U.S. midterms? They announced it right after. Timing of the pullout could also be weather-related, but...
Who knows? I don't think so myself. That's my own personal guess. I think that Surovikin, who was the person who was clearly pushing for it, I think he was operating according to his own timetable. I think what he needed to do was to set up the defense lines in Kherson region so that when the Russians pulled back, they had a layered series of defenses that they could pull back to, and he needed to set up the pontoon bridges and the ferries and to make sure that the Antonovsky Bridge was, solid. And I think it was these military factors, these military and engineering factors that dictated the timetable rather than the midterms.
D64NZ says, regarding the missile story, I think NATO blinked. My impression was it was only the little countries in the Baltics who were pushing for war. The U.S. instead were quick to back down.
I think that's true. I don't think anybody was looking for war apart from the Baltic states, the Ukrainians themselves, and perhaps some people in Poland.
Michael Jenka said, a secret club doesn't mean new. In fact, very old is the secret Psych Majors Club, the hidden hive of honchos peppered inside your very DOJ, so they're not required to declare war to conquer you.
I think this is very true. I mean, certainly, old secret clubs can often be the oldest clubs. I mean, dare I say it, White's, which is the oldest gentleman's club in London, is very secret about some of the things it does, and it dates from the 17th century.
Trevor L. says, perhaps the $37 billion was fast-tracked because the FTX backdoor collapsed.
I think that's probably true. I think we commented on this in our program, actually.
John Morgan, thank you for a super sticker. Jay Galt says, U.S. false flags, remember the Maine. Lusitania, Operation Northwoods, Gulf of Tonkin, Mu-Serb war crimes, weapons of mass destruction, Assad gassing, Putin poisonings, not an accident.
No. Well, I know a lot of people think. I still think myself that this was this was an accident. That I think that this was a missile that went astray, perhaps a bad operator, an incompetent operator, very possible. But the point is that some people tried to use it. The Ukrainians tried to use it to create a crisis between NATO and the West, and NATO and Russia, sorry, and they failed.
Peter Forwine says, all money shipped to Ukraine gets cleaned. Most is sent back to the criminals in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for that. Jonathan Starr, thank you for that super chat. Denitsa Ivanova says, I am convinced that even if Russia had not reacted first but had waited for Ukraine to reach Russian territory, the media would still have convinced people that Russia had no right to defend itself.
I completely agree with that view.
Mr. Wonderful says, it's gone beyond a negotiation. Russia now must remove all of the current Ukraine from existence. Any remaining part will only instigate in the future.
The last couple of days, Russian statements on Ukraine have hardened. I've seen statements from Peskov and Ryabkov and others, and I don't get the sense that the Russians see any sign at all of any willingness to compromise, any genuine willingness to compromise, either from Ukraine or from the West. Whatever was discussed between Narishkin and Burns in Ankara, and between Patrushev and Sullivan over the phone, it has left the Russians very unconvinced.
Mark Hewitt says, do you think the point of approaching when a major Western politician goes against the Western orthodoxy on Ukraine, the point is approaching? I think we answered this.
Yeah, I think we did answer this, yeah.
Lindy says, Brian mentioned not running out of guns in a war. My question is, wasn't Odessa once a popular place for running guns?
I think we answered that too, actually.
Yeah, we answered that as well. And Lindy says, historically speaking, after the fall of the USSR. Understood. Florentina Colta, thank you for that super sticker. Eliana McKee says, isn't this war bad publicity for the Western military-industrial complex? Wouldn't they want to cut their losses?
I think Brian answered that too, actually.
Yeah. Yep. Panama says, no, thank you for a super sticker. Just Panama. B56XZ, thank you for that super sticker. Brent D says, Ukraine prep on the Belarus border seems to indicate they don't think Russia will cut the Dnieper crossings when they start their offensive, or they do and are preparing to accept that loss. Any thoughts?
Oh, who knows? Again, I don't know what the Ukrainians think the Russians are going to do, and I don't know what the Russians themselves are going to do. But certainly the Ukrainians have been spooked by what's going on the border, and they're busy trying to fortify it. I hear they've moved 15,000 troops there as well.
Rhodesian Dream says, it has been key for the Russian people to be shown the West's reaction. How will they react to 40,000 NATO troops in Western Ukraine?
That is exactly true, and I think you've put your finger on an important point now. I think Russians have now seen how the NATO reacts, and I think they will react very, very negatively to the presence of Polish and Romanian troops in Ukraine.
Golden Sun says, what happens after the EU adopts CBDCs?
I don't know.
Shauda Shikar says, how similar is the current USA to the late Soviet Union?
I think we talked about that too, and we said that there are some rather worrying parallels. I mean, there are differences too, of course.
Sparky says, great work. Lover of the Russian team says, glory to Russia. Zahir Shaki says, nothing. Just thank you for the super chat. And Shady Lady, thank you for that super sticker. And that is everything.
Everything.
Thank you very much for all of the questions.
Yes.
Take care.